Everybody, welcome to Super Agents Live. Hey, if this is the first time you're tuning in, I appreciate you showing up. Here's what we do on the show, man. I talk with top producing real estate agents, coaches, and authors, and I get into their business. I get into their mind. I get into, hey, how did you do it? What did you struggle with? So that you can hear about these mistakes so that you don't have to go through them. Now, today's episode is a fantastic episode. One thing that you're going to want to keep in mind as you listen to this, what you should do is pop over to the site, because some people are listening on the site and some people are listening on iTunes and Stitcher. Pop over to the site, superagentslive.com, and do two things. Download my free ebook, number one, and that way you can keep abreast of, we will not miss future conversations like the one that you're going to hear today. And two, go to the show and subscribe on iTunes and Stitcher. So I'd appreciate you doing that. I hope you love the show today. Today's guest, today's super agent, is a guy named Wes Madden. Now, I was lucky enough last week, I actually got to spend some time with Wes one-on-one. He's just as cool in person as he is in this interview. And look, his background, man, this guy, he's a former Black Hawk helicopter pilot. He's a full-on adrenaline junkie, but he's a real business guy. This guy has built a fantastic business in Fairbanks, Alaska. And he does about 400 sides a year. So I hope you enjoy it. Let's get to it. Welcome to Super Agents Live. This is the one place where you can come and hear the most successful people in real estate. You'll hear how these super agents built their businesses, how they stay productive, and how they stay motivated. Who am I? My name's Toby Salgado, and I made my first $1 million in real estate. Yeah. And I'm your host for the next 30 minutes while we talk to yet another amazing real estate entrepreneur. Stay tuned.
Let's go! Yeah!
Hey, Wes, thanks for taking the time out today. Now, I've given the audience a brief overview of your background, but maybe take a minute. Tell us a little bit about yourself and your business.
Thanks, Toby. I appreciate you having me on the show. I am the CEO, owner of Madden Real Estate. We're an independent real estate brokerage and centrally located in Fairbanks, Alaska. We do have offices in North Pole, Alaska. Yes, the North Pole. It's actually right next to, our office is actually right next to the Santa Claus house. And then just recently we just opened up our Eagle River office, which is just outside of Anchorage. Our Fairbanks office consists of, we've got 16 sales folks, two inside sales agents, and about 10 admin. Our Eagle River office is comprised of about 6 folks right now and growing very fast. And we've been the top real estate team in the state of Alaska for the last 5 years running.
Yeah, top, and that's why we wanted to have you on the show. Top team, and by the way, I'm friends with, and I can say friends with Bob Corcoran. We spend time every week together, and he tells over and over again, you come up in conversations. So listen, really quickly, I normally don't ask about transactions, but how many sides do you guys do? How many deals do you guys do a year?
It ebbs and flows somewhat depending on what's happening with the military, or Alaska tends to be at the whim of military and oil and gas exploration spending, but we're typically right around that 500 transaction mark for the last 3 years. With the bringing on the Eagle River office, we look to push that even higher.
Got it. So it's fair to say you're a slacker. So look. How did you? So you obviously rule Alaska. You're in Alaska. Synonymous with real estate is Wes Madden. But so Wes, what is your background? How did you end up getting into real estate and building this monster of a business?
I think like everybody, you just happen into it, right? Isn't that how everyone's story plays out in real estate? Well, the Army actually brought me to Alaska. I was a medevac pilot. I flew Black Hawks around and picked up hurt and sick people, and loved my job. Didn't really love the Army a whole lot. There was a lot of things with the Army that I felt like like the Army maybe was not the most efficiently ran organization. So, I always had this quest for excellence in operational excellence, I guess you could say. And I loved the people, I loved the mission, I loved what I did. And to be honest with you, I loved the stress and the challenge, both physically and mentally, that the job required. But it just wasn't. I felt like I was somewhat limited in my ability to control the efficiency of my organization. So I came back from Afghanistan, ended up taking a medical retirement following that tour. My wife and I decided, we didn't really know where else we wanted to go. We stayed in Alaska. We weren't quite done with the Alaska experiment. Got my real estate license, and the next thing I knew, a lot of people were telling me about their bad experiences, and they were wondering if I could help them. And the rest literally was history. After my first full year, I think we were the top agent in Fairbanks, and then it just kept going from there. We just kept kind of growing as we got to where we couldn't serve all of our raving fan clients. So it was a really great problem to have. I really started in kind of a sleepy market and shook the market up. So it's been fun progressing Fairbanks real estate into this century. So
it's amazing. So look, if I look at your background, Wes, I see a couple things, right? So there's a specific type of person that gets into the military. You're a pilot. You're a medevac pilot. So that is a certain kind of personality, right? This very detailed kind of like, adventure guy. Now, were you also a doctor, Wes, or are you just the pilot?
Yeah, just a pilot. I was basically a glorified ambulance driver, and the guys in the back were the folks saving lives. So, but there was a lot that was very applicable from that career to this career. I got into real estate, and Toby, and I walked in. I did what all the agents do. I went straight to a national franchise, and I signed up with a broker. And then I found out that real estate just seemed to be everyone was just kind of running their businesses from the seat of their pants. There was no real system. No one really had like any process to what they were doing. And I always use the analogy. I used to be able to start a Blackhawk in about three and a half minutes. I could get a Blackhawk up to full speed and be able to take off, and that's very fast. But I would still follow the checklist every time, because the one time that I skip a step in the checklist, I forget to put the fuel system select switch into direct, and we flame out about 300 feet off the ground. And I kill everybody on board. So, kind of an extreme analogy, but it goes without saying you got to be systematic in your approach to your business if you desire duplicatable results. So we just started making systems. I didn't find what I was looking for in with that national franchise, obviously, as most people don't. Was very fortunate early in my career to pick up coaching. I've always been an athlete, always sought out mentors, and coaching in business just seemed like the right thing to do. Was lucky to make contact and develop a very strong bond with Bob Corcoran, also at Corcoran Coaching and Consulting, and they really helped me catapult my business to the next level. And then I later that's when I went independent on our own, and we've been independent for 5 years now. Okay, so you touched on exactly what I wanted to get to, because normally I have one friend I have a few friends that are pilots. I have one friend that flies helicopters. I'm in San Diego, so I know a lot of military guys. Now, those two personality types don't speak business, right? They don't speak sales. They don't speak, how to, there's nothing in those two backgrounds going with how to build a business. Now, the thing for you what you just said to us, Wes, the thing that was, I guess, universal was systems, right? You followed that checklist when you fired up your Blackhawk. So when you got into your business, you started building systems. Did you struggle with the notion that you weren't necessarily a sales guy, and like sales wasn't your background? Or I'm trying to blend like this sales and business building with these systems that you had. I think at some point, I guess looking back, one of my medics at the time said, Wes, I knew when we were over in Afghanistan, when you were dope dealing to get us. We got. I don't know, satellite TV. We got a phone system hooked up through the satellite at that time so that, our soldiers could talk to their loved ones back in the U.S. We were able to negotiate materials and local national workforces to build us new hooches out at some of our forward operating bases. So I actually had to do a lot of selling, believe it or not, in that combat environment. What the military actually gives you is very little, and you're very limited at what you could do. So you had to be very ingenious to come up with ways that you can make. We used to call it embracing the suck, right? It was so bad, it was good, if that makes any sense, right? So we would just, my guys always knew that I was going the extra mile for them, I guess, to make life not so bad. And, we look back now, and those were some of the best times, even though they were some of the scariest times, they're some of the best times we ever had. And so sales was kind of there, but I think by and large, I would fly on these, nighttime medevac missions under goggles, under night vision goggles. Wow. So you got a 40-degree, imagine flying at 40-degree field of view, green scintillation. You're flying a complex aircraft, multi-engine aircraft, in some very treacherous terrains. I fly in Alaska, and Afghanistan has some of the most treacherous mountainous terrain you can imagine. Against an enemy that knows that my medevac bird with big red crosses is not armed with offensive weapons. So you can pretty much imagine the threat that's there. But at the same time, we're also talking on 6 radios, navigating to the point of injury. All the while, I'm just making sure that I'm flying tactically and I'm not killing my crew. So, I think managing stress and managing what's important in the whirlwind, and I think you get caught up in the whirlwind, whether it's combat or your daily business or life. I mean, I think it's very easy to get caught up in the whirlwind, and you're not focusing on what's truly important, what's the highest and best use of your time at that moment. And that was one thing that I felt like I had over other agents was, real estate just wasn't that stressful. I mean, I would see other real estate agents really breaking down in moments of crisis, or what they perceive to be moments of crisis or negotiations, and it just, compared to what I used to do, it didn't seem like it was that stressful. So I think being that calm in the storm, helping pull the client through what may be a very stressful time in their life, and in Alaska, every buy and every purchase and sale is very stressful because our clients don't just buy houses here. They're usually moving here from 4,000 miles away, or they're selling their house and moving 4,000 miles away. There's a lot of stressors to getting here, and it just kind of adds to that. And I think when you've got strong leadership, both from myself, but really resonating throughout my entire organization, we know that we're more than just real estate agents. We're really relocation directors, and to be that person to help you with more than just buying a house. I mean, it's moving up here, how to keep your car from freezing up, how to survive in this environment. It really develops a great bond with the client, with our team, and I think there's a lot of value there. I think our clients are very appreciative of the service that we're able to provide, and I like it because it's a challenge. So.
Well, look, I mean, it's not that much of a challenge. I mean, you just relayed to me this incredible story of, you flying in night vision goggles, right? You have no offensive weapons, this crazy terrain. It's kind of like, you see those guys in the circus, they're juggling chainsaws, riding a unicycle. I mean, right? That's what you're used to doing. And here's the thing. Here's what you said early on in this interview. You said, hey, that stress, like, I kind of like it.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
It's just an amazing.
I think you have to. I think you have to like it. I think that's what draws people to sales. I mean, you have to like. You got to understand that you got to, in order to help somebody. A lot of people get into real estate because they say, "Oh, I want to help somebody." Well, yeah, who doesn't? But the thing is, you got to make a sale to be able to help somebody in real estate.
Yep.
So it's a critical piece of the equation.
So, but here's kind of how I wanted to tie. I want to talk about that, but I want to, in terms of you liking stress and you doing this risky stuff, right? Here's one thing that I'm always really fascinated when I talk to a guy like you. Your first year, you were the top guy in Fairbanks, and that wasn't enough, right? And now you're the top team in Alaska. You're doing 500 transactions. A guy like you, Wes, you know how to build a business where you can totally step out of it. And look, by this point, you're making a ton of money. You know, at some point, you may not need to make any more. You may have enough money for you to live for the rest of your life today, and if you don't, you will in 3 years. What is it about a guy like you, a personality like you, that you just keep pushing the pedal to the metal, right? Because you did 500. Guess what? That's not enough for Wes Madden. You want to go bigger. What is that thing? And maybe and is that thing? Is that something innate in you, or is it something you've developed?
Well, I think it's mostly innate. I mean, when I first got into business, I said, "Whoa, wait a minute! This is exactly what I was looking for. I can be compensated directly proportional to the effort and efficiency by which I'm working." I mean, you talk about it was like throwing gasoline on a bonfire, and the problem with that was I took off doing my normal 140 mile an hour speed, and I was working so hard and so much that I quickly lost sight of my work-life balance. Mm-hmm. And so built up, a ton of transactions, a big client base, but I wasn't happy. I mean, I had the income. I mean, the income was great. I mean, we made a lot of money. But, at the end of the day, I was not happy, and my relationships were not great with my family. And I had a wife and a young son at the time, and now have three boys. And I knew that I couldn't stay on that path and live the life that I wanted to. So with Bob's help, we started leveraging myself through building a business where I wasn't, we're basically backing my way out of the business, to where I was more of a true CEO of the company. Because that was at the end of the day, that was where, I had it cracked. I knew how to be very successful in real estate, but I could design a company that would offer, I guess, what I was looking for when I got into real estate, that opportunity that would allow me to step in, engage in dollar productive activities the majority of my day, be well supported, well trained, and just engage in the fun stuff of real estate at the time, which was the selling part, So we've really been focusing on building that. I've got the best work-life balance I've had in a long time here, and it just keeps getting better and better. And like as Bob always says, you say yes to something, you're saying no to something else. So I say no a lot to a lot of things. However, I think being able to share what I know with my people, I'll trade some income to show others, how to do what I do. And that's where the true joy comes in. And so that's been fun, and not only that, Toby, but it's really allowed me to get involved in our local community with a lot of charity organizations, nonprofits. There's so many organizations in town, at least in my town, and I'm sure in every town across the United States, that could really benefit from our energy, our knowledge, know-how, not just money. I was kicking money to some of these charities all the time, but then I said, you know what they really need? They need someone to step in and be on their board, and help them right the ship. Because I can set a budget. I can give them a business plan. This is stuff I do in my sleep. So that's really where you can benefit. So I encourage for anybody. Leverage yourself so that you can give back. Because if you're like me, that's really what fuels you, and that's better than any amount of money in the bank to me. And so it's been real rewarding and keeps getting better every year.
Yeah, and we can talk about the whole finding your why in a second. Let me go back to the work-life balance, and I want to get your take on this. So. Okay. Here's my belief, and I've struggled with that for a long time. The whole, I've had some really, really good years, and then there's years I'll pull back, and every time for me I do something new. And I'm a serial entrepreneur. I've done 6 different companies now. It's my belief that when you start something, if you want to win, if you want to go out and build something great, you have to sacrifice your work-life balance in the beginning, right? It doesn't mean that, you have to know when to pull back. But I don't believe there is and I want your take. I don't believe there's a way to really start a business from scratch and make it successful without robbing from your family, time and energy, and from your family and friends. What's your take on that?
I would agree with you. I don't think it's like a static, line where it's like, hey, I'm at work from 9 to 5, then after 5 I'm at I'm at home, and that's my balance. I mean, I think, if you're going to be an entrepreneur, you're right. I mean, that ebbs and flows depending on what stage of your business you're in. And, I think the startup phase, no phase is more painful than that startup phase. But I mean, I remember, I think it was Darren Hardy. I got to listen to Darren Hardy at a conference, and he had the pendulum swing. If you're willing to endure more pain, how much pain can you endure? Because when that pendulum swings back, you got that reward.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just kind of a good way of looking at it. And I think very few people are willing to, go through the pain that it takes to, to do what, a lot of successful entrepreneurs are willing to do. But I think I think you got to have buy-in with, with your family. I mean, there's been some things, we've had some opportunities that we've said no to where, I just sat down with my wife and we said, is this what we want? And we decided, it's not. I mean, it would have been financially great for us, but it would have taken more time, and we just didn't feel like that was the best use of my time at that moment in our life. And I think you got to be like, you got to communicate not just with your people, but I mean with your family. And if you truly hold them in high regard, I mean, I think you're making decisions, business decisions that benefit your family.
Yeah, I agree, and this is where I think where I think you were fortunate early on to get a coach like Bob, because a lot of entrepreneurs they're going along and they see an opportunity, right? That next shiny object, and they only see the potential reward, right? And they're like, oh yeah, I know it's going to take all this energy and all this time, and I'm going to be away from weekends for my wife, whatever it is, and they go. But I think, and they do it because in reality, that person doesn't have an abundance mindset, right? It's a scarcity mindset. They see that opportunity, that shiny object. They're like, well, you know what? If I don't take this now, it's never going to show up again.
That's right.
So look. So if I want to talk about checklists real quick because you were very to start that Blackhawk in 3 minutes. You had to do those checklists. You had to do them fast. That's what you started building in your business. You started building systems. What were those early systems that you built into your business that has sort of built the strong foundation that you have today?
It was as simple as, I still remember to the day when I hired my first employee and I knocked it out of the park because she was the receptionist at the brokerage I used to work for. She was actually quitting, and she was leaving. I said, "Hey, where are you going?" She goes, "Well, I just can't do this job anymore. I can't work for the broker." And I said, "Well, hey, you want to come work for me?" She's like, "Well, what do you want me to do?" And I had literally for 2 weeks I was time tracking my day by the half hour, and I was basically highlighting the half hour blocks that I was actually engaging in dollar productive activities, and I wrote down what else I was doing that was just support activities, and I said, "Well, let's just start with these things, I want to," and I think at the time I was like coloring the DPA time yellow or green, something that correlated with money, right? And everything else was like pink because I was like, oh man, it's got to be some humiliating color for me. So I would like highlight it pink, right? So, because I'm a tough guy. But so I was highlighting it pink, and I said, well, just do all the pink stuff. So we just started making a list. And start with a piece of paper, and you make a list. And then that list became top producer action plans. And and then our system has just evolved over time. So that we can be scalable across multiple markets, and we can be prepped to add salespeople and add volume and add markets, but yet not get drugged down operationally. And now we're working with a Salesforce platform. We've got a lot of logic built into how our workflows work, and it just keeps getting more and more sophisticated. But there's a fine line there where you don't want to get so systematic that it impacts the efficiency or the effectiveness of what it is you're trying to improve. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you can be too systematic. Don't get me wrong. You still want your people to operate using cognitive thought towards providing that raving fan experience. You don't want to get off that. You don't want just check the box type people. So you got to just kind of monitor that and make sure that you're keeping the vision and the purpose of what we're here for at the forefront.
Yeah, well, see, I think that's the art of being a CEO, right? Being able to step back and go, it's not all about efficiency. I'm going to give up, just like you will give up some money or financial gain opportunity for time. You need to give up some, with your people. Right? You want that raving fan experience. So again, I appreciate you saying that because I think that's certainly an art that most people can't see, and they can't see, man, because they're so involved in their business. Were you naturally, Wes? Were you naturally sort of the mindset when you first started, like, you came out of the gate strong? Let me ask it this way. At what point did you say, okay, listen, I wanna build this and be the true CEO of my company rather than this guy, in it and wrenching on it all the time?
I think as you can imagine, our houses are quite interesting up here in Fairbanks, and so we'll get like 40-item engineer reports back, on these real estate transactions, and the buyers and sellers just going back and forth. At some point, I just said, if I have to negotiate another engineer report, I swear I'm going to be out of this business. I just can't do it anymore, because I knew that wasn't the highest and best use of my time. So it really was just, I think it was when I was able to. I'll tell you what, Toby, I think I knew that when I was able to bring in buyer specialists and listing partners that maybe had not done great in the business or failed and got back into the business, and then I showed them the right way and put them in a position to succeed, and then they were successful, and literally they were like, it like changed their life with their family. I saw that, and I said, I need to really focus on being the best CEO I can possibly be. And that's the thing is I believe, I'm learning every day. I've got a long ways to go as a leader, and as a CEO, and that'll continue, over the rest of my life. And a lot of, just like your radio show, your podcast, there's just so many nuggets. There's so much to pull, from the smart minds in the industry and outside the industry that just keeps getting better and better every year.
Yeah, no, I agree. So here, let me ask you this way. Lots of times, right? Again, I've for some reason I normally don't talk about personality types as much as I have on this episode, and I don't know why it keeps coming up in my mind. But there's a certain personality type that earlier you said there's a difference between startups are very hard. When you start up a company, at the startup phase is the very hard thing. It takes that's one temperament. And I see this in tech companies all the time, right? There's startup guys, and then there are guys that can actually run a big organization. Now, normally, especially in tech, there's the startup guy who starts it, and usually those founders get moved out, and a professional CEO, comes in. And here's the thing: I want to find out if you struggle with this. The thing that those startup founders cannot get themselves past is the notion of, right, they're very type A, very hands-on. Whatever the thing is that they want somebody to do, they can't let it go because they know nobody's going to do it as good as them. And so you know what? Because nobody can truly do it as good as them, they never let it go. Did you ever struggle with that, Wes?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we called that first core group. We call ourselves the founders, right? We're the founders of the company, and the thing is I think you have to keep that. I think as you add more people to the company, it's the same thing. If you're a startup guy, you're bringing new blood into the company that maybe didn't go through that startup phase and felt that pain, the time and the blood, sweat, and tears it took to build the company, and they don't maybe appreciate it as much. So that's the culture piece, and that's where you have to make sure that you pay attention to the past, and you're making sure that new folks joining the organization know what it took to get there, so they don't take it for granted. So there's still that culture piece. Because I think when people commiserate together, it really builds a really tight bond. Yeah. And that's what we definitely had when we started. But I struggled with that. You're exactly right. I would classify myself as a startup guy because, I was a Midwest farm boy wrestler. I don't quit. I got that intestinal fortitude. I don't give up. I'm a forever optimist. I look at things in positive light. I can drive people through really, really tough situations to get on the other side and enjoy accomplishment. But once it's all built and it's running, I've had to learn how to be that, as you said, the professional CEO, someone that comes in and is now managing an already built company. That's been my challenge. I'd actually prefer just going through that startup phase because I'm an adrenaline junkie. So.
Right. I was going to say, so really quick on culture. What you said was sure. you have the founder group, and then as you add more people, you get the blood starts to get a little bit diluted, right? Because the 15th person probably doesn't have the same They haven't gone through that war, right? Of the ups and downs of starting. What about? And I've seen this in organizations as well. 15th person up to 25, really sort of past 25. and I'm not sure if you're there yet, but what happens is it becomes us and them, right? Oh, that's the new guy, right? Like, it becomes an us and them, and I think culture starts to get that. That's when really being a CEO and having management, strong management comes into play.
I think you got to look at each evolution as a business as a new startup period. Is how I look at it. It's we've evolved over time. It started off with, hey, it's Wes, and then a couple buyer agents and a couple admin people. Then it became Wes, an operations manager, a listing partner, a couple. It just kept changing. And every time you change, I think if you're engaging your people, I think if you said us versus them. If you have an us versus them, it's. I think when you bring new folks in, I think you have to look at the challenges external to the company as being the them, and us is still us. And you have to generate that startup that feeling, so that everyone feels like they played a part in that. I think you do that through effective the battle rhythm of your meetings, your brain. If you're doing regular brainstorming sessions, off-sites, team advances, whatever you want to call them,
right,
where you're really drawing from the team their ideas on how we can make this better. You're just constantly innovating and improving the business, and then they get buy-in, because if you've given something, if you commiserated with your teammates, it's just you feel like you're a part of an organization. I just find that it's huge for retention and for keeping that culture going. I really do.
I 100% agree. Earlier, I want to understand something about. Earlier you said, when you started to add teammates or team members, you said you took some people who were struggling, right? They really hadn't done very well, and then you put them in a spot, and they all of a sudden became, they started to win, and then their lives changed. Man, you remember you saying that? You said, hey, with their family, everything changed. What is the difference between the environment that they were in, where these people couldn't succeed, and then the environment you put them in, and their lives were just transformed?
Well, listen, I think real estate in general, I think it's the odds are stacked against you if you're a new agent. I mean, the way, at least the support that was offered, in the brokerages that were in my market. I mean, there wasn't anybody that nobody was interested in taking on a newbie, because no one really had like a new agent training plan. No one had taken the time to think that, hey, maybe there's some talented people that want to get in the real estate industry. So, anyways, I think a lot of them were in that rut where they're trying to do everything on by themselves. They've got no money to spend towards marketing, yet they need to generate income. It's kind of like this. Not everybody has an MBA. Not everyone is has a marketing degree. But yet they're good people, and they're great real estate agents. And what they don't understand is a lot of real estate agents don't run their businesses like a business. I think we all know that, and I think that's why you have a huge disparity between those who make it and those don't, or I should say, who's making the money and who isn't. Yeah. So it's really just kind of bringing them in and shrinking it down, because they're going in eyes wide open. They're looking at 180 things, and you're bringing it and you're saying, I want you to focus on 4 things, and everything else I'm going to take care of for you. But I want you to be truly world class in these 4 things. Can you do that? And it just makes it, and I think if you hire the right people, they just knock it out of the park, and which has been the case for me. I mean, it was the same in the Army, and this is when I talk about the inefficiencies in the Army. I mean, I'd have a guy who's a mechanic on a Blackhawk, and he's just not made to turn wrenches. Okay, well, the Army would make him do push-ups, tell him he's not a good soldier, and then we'd end up kicking him out of the Army or something, or hopefully reclassing him. But I'm sitting there looking at this guy, and I'm like, why don't they do a little bit better assessment of this kid's talents? Because I don't think anybody shows up to work and says, well, I want to suck today. I'm going to go to work. I'm going to be terrible. There's no such, I can't remember, there was some general that said there's no such thing as a bad soldier. So I think it's our job as leaders to be able to put those people in a position to where they can be successful. And it's no different with your real estate company. At least, I've enlisted the help of John Pike here recently this year. He's helped me with a lot of my recruiting processes, which is, and behavioral analysis. I mean, we've definitely streamlined that process, and that's been great on top of the Corcoran coaching process.
So that I mean, that's very interesting what you said. What you said about understanding people's personalities and putting them. Here's how Gary Keller would say it. Right, he talks a lot about putting people on the right seat in the bus. Right, not everybody is meant to drive. Not everybody is meant to be the mechanic. Not everybody is meant to be the navigator. I have a long question. I don't even want to know if I want to say it, but here's the thing. People get into, as you know, people get into real estate for two things. They get into it because they want time freedom. They get into it because they want financial freedom. I say it often on the show. They never get to financial freedom because they abuse the time freedom. And what do you do, Wes? Take somebody out there. There's millions of these people, right? And you've mentioned these two classes of people, or these two situations. I'll say it right now. One, the people that are doing real estate that have no real systems. And then, so they have no real systems, they have no marketing dollars, but they need to generate income. What do you do? Like, is somebody out there, I know there is 5 people out there listening to this episode right now who's in that situation. What kind of advice, if any, can you give them to whip them into shape, put them on the right seat in the bus in their own business?
Well, I think that I always look at who's doing it right, and then I would gravitate towards them and ask them what they're doing. So if you're floundering or struggling in your business, look to who's doing it right and take them to lunch and ask them about what they're doing. I mean, that's how I've hired half of my people almost, but it's.
What do you mean?
I think you'd be.
Sorry, go ahead.
Well, I think they'd be surprised with how many people will openly share with you. The thing that I notice about a lot of top producers across the country is they're sharers. I mean, they just freely share what it is that they're doing. And the thing with real estate is I think real estate's like way overtrained. I mean, there's so much training out there. It's amazing, but under implemented. You can go to these conferences or to getting coaching programs, and there's 100 things that you can implement, and you end up implementing none of them. And one of the things that Bob's great at is like pick 3 things, commit to them, and implement them now. Do it. And sometimes that right there, having that one person to make you implement, hold you accountable to those, to just taking it step by step. Sometimes that's where the value comes in with companies like ours, team type structures, because at the end of the day, everyone's more successul. And, the end result is the client's getting better served, because you got better people working for you, the more successful. So.
Yeah, no, I would really, really agree with that, Wes, because I see people listen to this show, and I will get tweets. We have a very strong Twitter tribe, and our handle is at SuperAgentsLive, in case anybody listening doesn't know. But I will get people take pictures, and they'll post them to my timeline or on my stream, and there'll be like notes for today's episode, and people will take like 4 notes. And what I see with these people, and this is what you just said, I see these people get all these ideas, and they're like, "Oh, this is a great idea. That's a great idea." And all they do is they just keep putting a laundry list together, and their laundry just gets longer and longer and longer, and they never go, "Okay, I'm going to double down on this one or this 2 or these 3."
Yeah. I'm kind of geeky when it comes to these conferences because I think one of the things I'd go to these conferences and I would take books of notes, and I kind of had a process, and this is just the way I learned. But I would scribble down the notes. And then on the plane ride home, and I live in Alaska, so I usually have like 18 hours to work on airplanes and airports to get my notes out. But I would type them out again, and then I would go through and I would select three of the ahas or nuggets that I pulled from that conference, and then I'd set timelines on when we're going to implement those things. And there would be 100 ideas, but it's that whole concept. Just pick 3, knock those out, and once you knock those 3 out. If they're working, then go on and pick some more. But there's so many things that you could focus your energy on. And I think the nice thing with brainstorming with at any of these conferences or masterminds is again seek out people who are doing something really well, and find out how they're doing it. And they'll freely share, and it's going to save you a lot of time, energy, and money, of course.
So, and earlier, and I interrupted you, and then you said that top producers are willing to share. So, go find somebody who's doing it well, go out and go out to lunch with them. And you said that's how you've hired half your team. Literally, are you saying that half of your team, they just reached out to you and said, "Hey, Wes, I see that you're killing it. Can I go out to lunch?" You agreed, and all of a sudden they're part of the Wes Madden family?
Yeah, I'll tell you what. I think until I hired John Pike this year, I don't think I advertised for or recruited a single agent on my team. They came to us. They saw our agents being successful. They saw our people being happy and full of energy at events. They saw our people engaged in community events. People saw us and how we acted. And it wasn't just the sales numbers. They just saw that we have fun. And I don't know about you, it's kind of like we had our company softball team and playing softball is fun, but like winning playing softball is even more fun, So
yeah.
We like to win, and whether that's winning in business or winning at home, we support each other, and it's palpable in the community. And I think if you don't have people coming and reaching out to your real estate team and asking you, "Hey, can I learn more about this, about your team and the opportunity?" Then I would look at the perception of your company within the community and be cognizant of that. What am I? We talk about with our people. You're always making an impression. There's a certain way that we show houses. There's a certain way that we conduct ourselves when we go to home inspections. When we're in the public, we're representing the company, the brand. We're protecting the shield, and we're always representing it in a very positive light. And that goes back to my military days. You never took the uniform off. I was always an Army officer, and I took that oath. And whether it was on duty, off duty, it didn't really matter. I mean, I was always representing our country. And it's an obligation, and our people buy into that, and they're proud of it. And I think you need to make sure that if you do have a business, that that type of advertising is worth its weight in gold. It's better than any classified or Craigslist ad. If I run into someone wearing a Madden real estate shirt in a grocery store and I just start smiling and beaming when you ask me what it's like working at Madden real estate, I know that that's the best bit of recruiting that I could ever have out there. And that's how we've gotten the majority of our people.
I love it.
What John Pike's allowed us to do is just really assess them and be able to tell them up front, hey, listen, you either have sales DNA or you don't, and it just saves them and saves us a lot of time to make sure that we're directing people towards where their strengths are. Because that's really what it is. Strength finding, not weakness finding. I'm not going to improve your weaknesses. I'm going to highlight your strengths and put you in position to really capitalize on that.
So that's a book, by the way. You're right. You know that, right? Strengths Finder 2.0. Is that something you have all your new people read and assess themselves?
I don't have. That's not one of my top. That's not one of my top mandatory reading books. Ours is 5 Dysfunctions of a Team. Mm-hmm. Raving fans, big fan of Compound Effect because it's just about successful habits. I still love Chet Holmes' Ultimate Sales Machine. It's one of my favorite books. I still love cracking that one open and reading it. But
you beat me to the punch, man. That's actually one of the last questions I ask, is I ask for a book recommendation. So, by the way, for everybody in the audience, if you want to read any of those books, Compound Effect, 5 Dysfunctions of a Team, or any of those that Wes just mentioned, you can get a free copy using our link, audibletrial.com/superagentslive. So you jumped ahead of me there. Hey, real quick, we're gonna start wrapping up here, Wes, because I've had you on now for 41 minutes. I appreciate it. I know you're a busy guy, but I know you love to share. So, in terms of this, you said in terms of recruiting, right? Like whether people see us at a community event. And earlier is what I want to tie it into. Earlier, you said in terms of charities, you said you used to throw money at charities, and you realized, hey, I can join the board. In terms of actionable advice, what are some things that either you do in your team, or look, you're one of these top producers that people are listening to or spending getting to spend an hour with today. What kind of nuggets can you give them to help them grow? What should they do? And that may be just too big of a question for you to answer, but maybe I'm sure you have some thoughts on that.
Well, I think people I think people want to do business with a company that gives back. I mean, especially if you're in a smaller community. We're in a sub 100,000 populous community. I don't feel bad giving my money to a company that I know is doing good things with it. You know what I mean? And I think the American culture, somewhat skewed by the media and stuff, and movies and whatnot, to think that successful companies are somehow greedy and bad, when in all reality, it's the successful companies that have to give, if that makes sense. So.
Yeah.
I think don't miss an opportunity to take a picture, with a big check, handing it to a nonprofit, a child. We've got a scholarship program here where kids, looking for extra money and comp youth sports leagues will come. I mean, I've had some kids I've been mentoring for like 4 or 5 years, and it's been really great watching them.
Wow.
They got to come in. They do an interview. We do goal setting. They bring their report cards in every year, and they're excited for it. And it's kind of like their parents can tell them all the time, hey, you need to study, you need to pick up at home. But they come in, they have an interview with Wes Madden, and they're like the next year they're running in to show me their report card and how well they did. So the parents love it. The kids, you get something out of that as well, and it's just fun, and it just takes a little bit of time.
No, yeah, okay. So I love that idea. So that's something I might implement. How did you go about? How old are these kids, and how did you go about letting people know that you were willing to do that?
Well, as soon as you let people know that you're willing to do that, all of a sudden, every child in the community is coming here asking for money, because the parents are going, hey, it could be $13,000 to have a kid in comp hockey because you're traveling all over the state and the country. I mean, plane tickets are expensive, and the equipment's expensive. It just happens to be a function of being in Alaska. And we take pictures, post on Facebook, and we get mileage out of it. But we got a process. It's not just everybody off the street. I mean, we have it's something that we make decisions on quarterly. There's an application form. There's things you have to do. So it kind of weeds out the people that are just looking for kind of a handout.
Right.
And preferences given to past clients and their children. So as should be. So you're kind of passively telling them, hey, listen, you do business with us. You're in the family, and we're going to take care of your family to come. I mean, it goes beyond our closing. So it just kind of keeps that vibe going with our clients.
Yeah, it's like a fraternity, man. It's legacy.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely. Oh, your parents bought a house with me? Absolutely. I'll sponsor you I'll sponsor your hockey team this year. Absolutely.
But
money,
And look, and not everybody audience can, has that much time or can do that. Doesn't have that kind of a footprint, right? I mean, 'cause especially I'm in San Diego, right? Like you live in a sub 100,000 person town. I'm in a town of 2 million. It's hard for me to get, above the noise. What did you do?
Start somewhere.
Yeah. Okay. Right. Start somewhere. Like, where can people? What do you think people can do? Can you're on the board of charities? Let's say that I'm mildly successful, or I'm working to be successful, but I want to help. Should I go and not me individually, people in our lives. Should we go and find a couple charities to join the board of, to build our business? Right. The echo effect of this is to build our business.
I think in everything you do, you got to do something that you're passionate about. I mean, find that one thing you're passionate about. If your wife or mom had breast cancer, you might be really passionate about that. I would start there and just ask yourself, what am I passionate about? For me, it was bringing youth wrestling to Fairbanks, because I was a wrestler. It did so much for me when I was a kid. So I looked at the youth wrestling in town, and it was in shambles. So I got involved. Obviously, if you go into those types of organizations and start helping, they just look to you and go, "Hey, you're a natural leader. You need to be president. You need to get this up and going." So then you're like, okay, saying yes to something and saying no to something else. So manage your time.
Yeah.
Just get involved with something that you're passionate about and start from there, and the rest will take care of itself.
See, I totally understand now how you said that earlier. You were saying, "Hey, I learned to say no," right? And saying no is a skill. I can see now what your bid is, because like you are a guy, you could be the mayor of your city, probably. You're a guy who has horsepower.
I stay about as far away from politics as I can, because that frustrates me. Right? Nothing about politics is efficient. So but yes, it is that. It does give you that type of recognition, and we've been sought out for various, political campaigns or positions.
Got it, man. Listen, Wes.
Not interested.
Look, man, you're a guy. I would love to have you on again. You're a guy that I could spend 2 hours on the phone with. But I want to wrap up with a few things. And this question that I have for you is one of the standard ones I have, and most of my questions, hopefully you could tell are not standard. But do you, Wes? What personal habits do you have that you feel contributed to your success?
To quote Chet Holmes, "Pighead discipline."
Yeah.
And if my coach said do something, I did it. I just didn't. I'm not I don't engage in limiting beliefs. There's not a whole lot. I believe I'm my own worst enemy, and I'm more powerful than my environment, and I think anything's possible with the right attitude. And so pig-headed discipline, I'd say, would be my number one attribute.
It's funny. I take notes when I'm interviewing, and literally, as soon as you got on in the first 30 seconds, you said you were a pilot, and I wrote down discipline, and then 30 minutes in, you said I was a Midwest farm boy. I wrote that down. I wrote down discipline, right? Especially with your wrestling background, discipline. And for a guy like you, man, pig-headed discipline. That's. Man, you know what? Yeah, look, I love talking with guys like you. You're super successful. You have no limiting beliefs. You could do anything you want, and you believe it, Wes. But you know what, man? You exude humility, right? There's no hubris. I don't know if hubris. You know what I mean? And I think that's very cool that you can maintain that even at the level that you are at.
Oh, thank you. And that's Midwest upbringing for you there.
Got it. Hey, Wes, listen, man. I always ask, or I always encourage my guests to reach out, say hello, say thank you for people like you coming on the show. So I'm going to do my part. I'm going to say thank you, Wes, for coming on. Where can people find you, and where if they want to, kind of see what you're doing, or say hello, or again say thank you for taking time out to come on? Where can people find you?
You can find us on Facebook, Madden Real Estate. Do a search. You can find a lot of what we're doing on a daily basis on there. Come on, like the page, say hi, and then in fact, we're doing a coat drive right now. You can see some of the happy pictures we got on there with our coat drive that we got going on in our community. Or you can find us at wesmadden.com on the web.
Wow. What a code drive. Again, great ideas. Listen, I have one. I mean, all these little things that you're doing, are there things, are you the brainstorm of these things, or are you modeling someone else with the code drive and, sponsoring kids? And I mean, where are you getting these ideas?
A lot of it's, we can come up with the ideas, or sometimes people just come to us and say, hey, listen, we know that you could help us with this, or here's a need. Do you think you could put something together for this? And we've got a large marketing, we obviously have a large marketing presence, and we're always happy to use that to better our community. Got it.
I love it, man. Hey, man, I would love to have you on again, and I'm going to sign off, but sit tight, and I want to talk to you for a couple minutes before we officially go. All right. Hey, Wes, thanks again.
Right on. Thanks, Toby.
See you, bud.
Let's go.